So I'm someone who's never sort of been a completionist in real life or in video games. Really, in video games, but I think moving at your own pace is something that I've learned over the years can be very important to a lot of people. Of course, being a completionist for a lot of other people is important, but not everyone. And I think it's important with video games to take a step away from them, to take a step back from certain genres, whether you're playing role playing games for, a few days or few weeks or the same game. And then you say, oh, maybe I want to try a multiplayer game. That works too. And some people are like, oh, maybe I'm in my late 20s now. I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 40s, I'm not in the mood to play video games all the time. Just take a break, That's what a lot of people say is like, just walk away from it, You either have too many responsibilities or that's a lot of what they say, but I had a pretty big break when I was back in college, and I was heavily into writing at the time. I think that I'd like to say was my substitute with video games. It was a big substitute. So I didn't really play a lot of video games in college during those years, and early 20s as much. And then when I came back, a lot of stuff changed, and then worked a whole bunch. And then I noticed I wasn't playing as much as, I did when I was playing games such as Halo. Like, I remember Halo 3 when that first came out, and I played that nonstop with a great friend of mine. And then now the games I play, mostly single player games, role playing games, right? Here and there I play multiplayer games. I have a bunch on my Steam games, but the problem I think where some people struggle with, where they're like, oh, I can't play video games anymore, is that they focus too much on video games all in, say, one day, 1 week, and then they're like, oh, I'm an adult now, I don't want to play video games. But the thing that people have to remember is that video games are as much an art form as movies, TV, writing, any other type of creativity, really. So it's important to take breaks from anything, deal with moderation. So it's one of the great things that I can't stress enough. I play a lot of old school video games now, as I mentioned. Another thing that I mentioned to a lot of people, a lot of my friends, is that if there's a game that doesn't interest you, if you're bored after the first even hour or before hour, just say to yourself, oh, this doesn't interest me anymore, and just start to put it down. Just like when or if you're reading a book and you say, oh, I don't like how these characters are written. I don't like how the story is being told. Just put it down and just stop listening to it. Get a refund on it. There are a lot of people who play games like that. There are a lot of people who read books like that. I remember back when I was in college, when I was in high school, I was reading books quite a bit. I'm picking it up a lot more now, but sometimes I like to pick up audiobooks when I'm playing a game by myself, usually at night, and I listen to the audiobook And it's still obviously not the same as, reading a book on hand, but if I dislike that book, I just like, okay, I'm gonna have it to the side. I'm not gonna read it right now. I'm gonna focus on the game. But multiplayer games like Halo, Call of Duty, any type of live service game, I think are great for dealing with audiobook, something like that in the background. But back to the topic, playing what interests you. I think it's very important for a lot of people to deal with, because especially people who are attached to social media or people who are online quite a bit, they're fixated on this idea that not everyone, but a lot of people, they're fixated on the idea that because their friends are playing it, they then have to play this new game, Oh, the new game is out, they have to get sold on it. The new MMO is out. It's like the same thing back how it was like when I was growing up. The new MMO is out, we all have to play it. We all have to play it together. And then but now today there are some people, a lot more people, they're all like, no, I'm not really interested in it. I'm not going to spend my money. And it's like there's a lot of games that are becoming more and more expensive. And so yeah, you just have to be cautious of the whole money stuff. And again, moving at your own pace, I think is very interesting to perceive, because there are a lot of people who they like to focus on, the completionist mindset. They have to get every single achievement. Then there are some people who are like, oh, I beat the story, game done. But a lot of people, they just have to 100% complete the whole entire game. I remember in this theater class that I took in college, it was a tough class because, we took a lot of, basically we watched these movies, older movies, and we critiqued them afterwards. So it was very similar to playing old school games, where I grew up, and you're critiquing them. And so that's why I like to challenge myself when I go through my Steam list or any of my older games. I still have my N64 console and all my games too, just like my Nintendo DS. So it's nice to get away from all the distractions that can be had. I think what's important too is that with this class that I had is that we critiqued the movies, what we liked, what we disliked. Basically, we put out a whole entire review for the movies, and I think that helped establish me writing game reviews later on, which I have written game reviews, but I think game reviews by the players themselves is very important, as opposed to just, say these other people who are reporters doing the, say they do play the game, but you don't know if they 100% finish the game. There are players that do crazy amount of work into the game, and they do 100% finish the game, which is extraordinary well. Yeah, so I think play what interests you. Just do old school games from time to time, and there are a lot of old school games that you can just buy for, a couple bucks. And then, because a lot of the new games, a lot of the ones that are coming out, you can't. I've always been under the feeling that unless I really trust the developer, and most of the time I don't tend to subscribe to the idea that I'm like, oh, I have to get this title. I have to get this, no matter what. There have been a few that I've gotten. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that's the latest one that I got. But aside from that, I don't get a whole bunch, because it's like they have like the deluxe editions for a lot of these titles. For like I think it was the Star Wars Outlaws and a lot of the other Ubisoft titles. Not that I'm knocking the game, I haven't really played through those games, but I know Ubisoft they have up their prices, and then they have the subscription service that they do. They're like, oh, just subscribe to our service and then you get the game, easier. So I disagree with that method. I think it's a bit annoying. I would prefer, if games were cheaper or a bit easier for players to get through. But I think that's a separate topic. And so in the sense of playing at your own pace, moving at your own pace, is like, I've met so many people who have gone through, say, a game that takes 120 hours or 170 hours to beat, right? And they've beaten it in, say, a few weeks. Then I've been stuck on the game for a couple months. Or like, 3 or 4 months or something like that. So it's similar to that. And there are some people who are like, oh, I have to get this game done as soon as possible because I have to keep up with everything else because there's so many games coming out all at once, so I have to finish the game. So I think that's another irritating part of the gaming world today, because I always felt like, I don't know if it was like this when I was a kid, but that's how I felt it was, that I didn't feel the need to complete games right away. Maybe it was because I was a kid, but it's also because it didn't feel so competitive back then. Yes, there was a lot of competition around certain things. Yes, I did compete with other people my age, but I didn't really care if I beat things on time. I wanted to unlock certain parts of the story. I wanted to unlock certain parts of the area, but to me, it didn't really matter. I didn't really care, honestly, how the game went, how everything played out. I was enjoying those story-based games, not just the story-based games. I love the traditional open world games. I loved Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I love those games. Those are my favorite types of games. The traditional Pokemon games, and then I still love the Pokemon games, but really I grew up on Pokemon Red, Pokemon Yellow, and stuff like that. But play what interests you and play what you feel like. Play what you enjoy, because those are the moments that are going to bring you joy. Those are the moments that are you're going to look back and say, oh, I'm glad I did that. Because a lot of people aren't going to think of doing that. There are a lot of people out there who just play games because other people say it's good. They still listen to other people for reviews, but back when I was a kid, to go off on a slight tangent again, there were other people who, I used to go over to friends' houses, right? And I just watched my friends play games. There was this one time I went to a friend of a friend of a friend, and he was the only person I knew who had a Nintendo GameCube, right? I never owned a GameCube. I was like, that's how annoying I always felt. Anyway, so played, you know, games together. It was like a whole entire day, and I was actually there by accident, and I asked them, you know, like, oh, how is it? How are the games? Like, do you enjoy it? And they said, like, yeah. They told me truthfully, because I just felt from the response that they gave me, they had been delving into the games, they've been delving into the console for hours upon hours, so why would they really lie, you know? It's not like they were getting paid by someone else, but it's, I think, very interesting that, you know, I can reflect on those memories that I had as a kid, and it does mean a lot to me. It does, because, you know, they're part of my childhood. They're a part of my memory that I'll always remember things like that. So anyway, I wanted to just sort of do that whole entire video, and there's more like that to come. So till next time, I'll catch y'all later. And yeah, this has been sort of a video about moving at your own pace and playing games which you enjoy. So till next time, peace.